The barren moon stretched under a pale sky, its surface covered with dust and scattered rocks. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the human research vessel that had landed near a deep crater. Ryan stood at the open hatch, gazing at the wreckage below. The alien ship had fallen hard, leaving a trail of broken metal and scorched ground. His captain gave simple orders. Stay close, gather information, and be quick. This is not our fight. The crew followed cautiously, scanners in hand, unsure of what they might discover. Ryan walked down the slope with careful steps, his boots leaving prints on the soft ground. The closer he got, the more he saw the damage. The alien craft was larger than their vessel, built of smooth silver panels with glowing lines that still pulsed faintly. It looked both fragile and majestic, like a bird with broken wings. Through the shattered hull, he saw movement. Survivors. His heart raced. Humanity had heard of this species before but never seen them so closely. They were elegant beings with tall frames and luminous eyes, their skin faintly shimmering under the pale light. Their voices carried a soft tone, though their words were hard to understand without the translation device. The human crew hesitated. None of them wanted to step too far. These aliens looked powerful even in their weakness. But then Ryan noticed her. Near the central passage of the broken ship lay a figure dressed in layered silver garments. Her crown-like headpiece was bent and broken. Her breathing was faint, and her side showed a deep wound that her guards struggled to treat with strange glowing instruments. The devices flickered and failed. She winced in pain, her face pale. Ryan asked quietly, "Who is she?" One of the guards shouted something in their language, blocking him from moving closer. The translation device struggled to catch the meaning, but a fragment came through, "Princess." Ryan's captain turned away, uneasy. "We cannot get involved with their politics. Leave them to their own." But Ryan could not walk away. His eyes locked on the injured princess. He saw the panic of her people, their tools failing, their fear rising. No one dared touch her. Their hands hovered near her wound, but they pulled back again and again, as if bound by strict rules or fear of harming her further. Ryan stepped forward. The guards raised their weapons, but the princess lifted a weak hand to stop them. Her glowing eyes fixed on Ryan, filled with both pain and curiosity. Without thinking further, Ryan knelt beside her. He tore a strip of cloth from his own uniform and pressed it firmly against her wound. The princess gasped, her eyes going wide. Her people froze, shocked at his action. No one outside their kind had ever touched royalty, much less in such a raw and direct way. The cloth grew dark with her blood, and Ryan pressed harder to stop the flow. His hands trembled, but he held steady. "Stay with me," he whispered, though he was not sure she understood. The princess's breathing steadied slightly under his pressure. Her gaze never left his face. There was surprise in her eyes, but also something else, something he could not name. Her guards muttered angrily, their translation devices finally catching some words. Unacceptable. Dangerous. Forbidden. But they did not stop him, for they saw that her pain lessened. The human crew stood in silence, uncertain. None of them had dared to act as Ryan did. They followed rules, protocols, and fear of the unknown. But Ryan had acted on instinct. A human instinct. The princess whispered something weakly, and the translation device picked up a faint word. Fearless. Ryan did not know if she spoke to him or to her people, but the word echoed in the air. Minutes felt like hours as he kept pressure on the wound. His arms ached, but he did not let go. Slowly, the glow of her body returned, and her breaths grew deeper. Her people brought new bandages, guided by his method rather than their failing tools. Together they wrapped the wound, sealing it enough for her to survive the journey. When they finally lifted her onto a makeshift stretcher, her eyes stayed on him. The guards carried her carefully, but she raised a weak hand once more, pointing to Ryan. The meaning was clear. She wanted him near. The captain frowned at the scene. Ryan, you have crossed a line we may regret. Ryan shook his head. No, I did what had to be done. As they moved back toward the human vessel, the princess kept looking at him. Her lips moved as if forming words she did not yet have the strength to say. Ryan felt a strange weight in his chest. Not fear, not regret, but something like a bridge between two worlds forming in silence. The barren moon no longer felt so empty. Something had begun here, something larger than wounds and wrecks. It began with a touch, a fearless act that none of her people would forget. The human vessel had settled near the edge of the crater, its engines humming softly in the still air of the moon. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense. Ryan had followed the princess, Lyra, as her guards reluctantly allowed him near. The crew watched silently, unsure of what to make of the situation. Lyra lay on a reinforced medical bed. The wound on her side had been wrapped with a combination of human bandages and some alien gel provided by her guards. She remained quiet, her luminous eyes tracing Ryan's every movement. For the first time, someone from outside her species had acted without hesitation to help her. She did not know if she should trust him, yet something in his calm expression made her heart settle a little. Ryan leaned against the wall, exhausted but alert. The adrenaline from the rescue still ran through him. His captain had insisted he stay in one place, but Ryan could not keep still. He felt a responsibility that went beyond orders. Lyra had trusted him with her life, and that trust was fragile. A translator device hummed softly as one of her guards attempted to communicate. She is alive, it said, the words slow and careful. Your intervention was unexpected. Ryan gave a small nod. I did what anyone would do. He paused, then added, I couldn't just watch her suffer. She needed help. The guard's eyes narrowed. Humans rarely acted purely on instinct. Lyra's people had rules, protocols, and traditions for every situation, especially concerning royalty. Touch was sacred. Intervention without authority was almost unthinkable. Yet here stood a human, bold, and unafraid. Lyra's lips moved, forming sounds that the device translated, your hands, they saved me. Her voice was faint but firm. No one touches me. Ryan offered a gentle smile. I am not afraid of helping. You needed it? Her guards exchanged uneasy glances. One whispered to another, a string of words Ryan could not understand. The translator could only catch fragments, danger, unwise, human. Despite their warnings, Lyra turned her head slightly, keeping her gaze on him. Something inside her had shifted. She had been taught to be cautious, to doubt everyone, but this human had acted differently. His courage had no expectation of reward. It was simple, honest, and entirely unfamiliar to her. Over the next few hours, Ryan stayed by her side. He helped adjust the bandages when they became loose and offered water when she could drink. Each small act strengthened the fragile trust between them. Lyra watched him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise, curiosity, and a growing admiration. Why do you not fear me? She asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Ryan paused, thinking carefully. Because fear does not help anyone. You are hurt. You need someone to care. That is all that matters. The words seemed to echo in the small medical room. Lyra's glowing eyes softened, though she did not speak again. For the first time in her life, someone had acted purely for her well-being, not for honor, duty, or politics. Her guards were restless. They remained close but did not interfere. They watched carefully, noting how she seemed calmer when Ryan was near. One of the older guards finally spoke to the translator. Your methods, strange. Effective. We observe. Ryan nodded politely, even though he did not fully understand their culture. His focus remained on her. Every glance, every subtle movement was a reminder that she had survived because he chose action over hesitation. Outside the ship, the moon's surface was quiet. Dust had settled around the crater, and the human crew moved cautiously, repairing minor damage from their landing. Yet inside, a connection was forming between two species, one human and one alien, that could have long-reaching consequences. As evening approached, the lights of the human vessel created a soft glow in the medical bay. Lyra stirred slightly, her breathing steadier. She lifted her hand slowly, letting it hover near Ryan's. He took it gently, careful not to startle her. The gesture was simple, but it carried meaning far beyond words. "Do you trust me?" he asked softly. For a moment, there was silence. Then Lyra's hand pressed lightly against his. It was a subtle acknowledgement, a bond that bridged the distance between their worlds. The act was small, but in her culture, it was extraordinary. Trust like this was never given lightly. Ryan felt a quiet pride, not for himself but for the moment they shared. He realized that courage was not always about fighting or winning. Sometimes it was about standing firm when fear could have held you back. Sometimes it was about being willing to help someone who could never repay you. The human crew observed in silence. Their initial skepticism faded as they noticed how Lyra's condition improved and how her presence became less tense. Even the guards seemed less rigid, though they remained vigilant. Ryan spent the night beside her, monitoring her breathing and ensuring the bandages stayed secure. Occasionally, he spoke in calm tones, narrating small stories of Earth, its mountains, oceans, and cities. Lyra listened quietly, intrigued by the images he painted with his words. She did not fully understand, but she felt the sincerity. By dawn, the bond had deepened. Lyra's energy had returned slightly, and her gaze was no longer wary but attentive. She had begun to see that humans were capable of bravery in forms her people rarely demonstrated. For her, trust was no longer a distant concept, it was tangible, rooted in the fearless act of a stranger who had pressed his hand against her wound. Ryan stood by the window, looking at the crater outside. The barren land seemed less empty now. Something had begun in this quiet, fragile way. The beginnings of a connection that could grow into something larger, something neither human nor alien had anticipated. A sudden alert from the ship's sensors caught his attention. Movement on the horizon. He turned to Lyra, who sat up slightly, her eyes narrowing as she focused on the screen. Her guard stiffened. Ryan smiled gently. "We will face it together," he said, his voice steady. She nodded, the smallest gesture of agreement, but enough to signify that she was starting to trust him completely. For now, the danger was not immediate. For now, the fragile trust between a human and an alien princess had begun to take root. And that trust would soon be tested in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The pale light of the moon reflected off the human vessel as it floated silently near the crater. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Ryan and Lyra sat side by side, both alert despite her recovering condition. The trust between them was growing, yet neither had fully relaxed. A soft hum came from the ship's sensors. Ryan leaned over the console, scanning the readings. The moon's horizon displayed something unexpected. Small, sleek ships appeared, distant but closing quickly. They were not human. They carried the insignia of Lyra's star kingdom, but the designs were altered, twisted. These were not friendly forces. Ryan's voice was calm but firm. "Captain, we have incoming vessels. They are not ordinary patrols." The captain frowned, stepping closer to examine the readings. "They look like fighters," he said. "But altered. Who would attack the princess?" Lyra's eyes widened slightly. She had recognized the symbols instantly. "They are after me," she said quietly. "My enemies, from within my own empire. They wish to remove me before I can reclaim my place." Ryan's jaw tightened. He had faced dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. The alien princess, alive because of his fearless act, now faced a threat from her own people. He felt a surge of responsibility. They had saved her once, and he would not allow harm to come to her again. Her guards were tense, their bodies rigid as they prepared defensive protocols. The human crew exchanged uncertain glances. They were not soldiers, but they could not ignore the danger. Ryan turned to Lyra. "We will get through this," he said confidently. "I will not let them take you." Her gaze lingered on him. In that moment, she realized that his courage was different from what she had known in her kingdom. It was raw, uncalculated, and entirely human. Unlike her guards, he did not hesitate. His instinct was simple: protect. The enemy ships were approaching quickly. Their movements were precise, but something in their tactics was unusual. Ryan noticed it immediately. "They are following patterns," he explained. "Predictable patterns. We can use that to our advantage." Lyra's brow furrowed. "You would risk your crew against my people?" she asked. Ryan smiled faintly. "We are already involved. It is no longer a choice. We help, or we watch." The human crew scrambled to prepare the vessel. Shields were raised, engines warmed, and defensive maneuvers rehearsed quickly. The alien guards, though wary of humans, allowed Ryan to give instructions. His instincts, combined with their technology, created an unusual alliance. As the enemy ships drew nearer, the first shots of warning fire lit the horizon. The missiles did not strike the human vessel directly, but the explosions shook the moon's surface. Ryan kept his hands steady on the controls, his mind calculating angles and speed. Lyra observed silently. She was impressed by his focus. Her people valued strategy, but humans often relied on instinct. Ryan combined both without hesitation, adjusting the ship's path to avoid the most dangerous attacks while keeping them on course to safety. The alien princess's guards whispered urgently, their voices tense. Lyra held up her hand, signaling them to stop. Her attention remained fixed on Ryan. For the first time, she trusted that a human could guide them through danger. Minutes passed with tense precision. Each movement of the enemy ships was countered by human improvisation and alien technology working in harmony. Ryan barked orders, his voice calm but firm, and the crew responded quickly. Shields shifted, engines pulsed, and the vessel dodged every obstacle. Suddenly, one of the enemy ships broke formation, moving faster than the others. It targeted the human vessel directly. Ryan's hands moved instinctively, guiding the ship in a sharp maneuver that brought it just out of reach. The crew gasped, but the strategy worked. Lyra's eyes widened in astonishment. She had never seen such boldness. Her guards murmured among themselves, acknowledging his skill even though it defied their traditional methods. "Your instincts, they are remarkable," Lyra said softly. Ryan shrugged, focusing on the horizon. "It is not skill. It is necessity. When someone needs help, you act. That is all." The enemy ships began to adjust, changing formation to anticipate Ryan's movements. The chase became a test of speed and wit. The human vessel darted among craters, using the uneven terrain to hide from sensors. Ryan relied on instinct, intuition, and the knowledge he had gained quickly from the alien systems. For Lyra, watching him was enlightening. She realized that humans had a courage her people rarely displayed. They acted without fear of protocol or expectation. They were unpredictable in the most effective way. Hours seemed to pass as the pursuit continued. Ryan noticed that the enemy ships were coordinated but not synchronized perfectly. He took advantage of their mistakes, leading the human vessel through narrow passages that the larger ships could not navigate. Finally, the enemy ships fell back temporarily. They were still present, circling the area, but the immediate threat had lessened. Ryan allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. Lyra turned to him. "You saved us," she said quietly. "Again." Ryan smiled faintly, brushing a hand over his forehead. "We saved each other," he said. "You trusted me. That is what matters." Her guards looked uneasy, but they could not deny the truth. The princess was alive, unharmed, and she had survived against forces that sought to remove her from power. The human courage and quick thinking had made the difference. The human captain approached, his face serious. "Ryan, we cannot stay here. They will return, and stronger ships will come." Ryan nodded. "We leave soon. But we will not run. We will prepare." Lyra watched him carefully. She had seen many humans, but she had never met one who faced danger without hesitation, without thought of self. His fearless nature had protected her, and now it gave her hope that her future was not predetermined by enemies or tradition. As the crew prepared for departure, Ryan remained close to Lyra. The bond between them had grown stronger during the chase. Her trust was no longer tentative, it was real, rooted in actions rather than words. The moon's surface reflected the first light of a distant star, casting long shadows across the crater. Ryan looked at Lyra and said, "We will get through this together. Fear does not guide us. Courage does." She met his gaze and nodded. For the first time, the alien princess felt that perhaps the human world, with its strange instincts and fearless acts, was a place where hope could grow. The shadows of pursuit were still present, circling them quietly, but inside the vessel, trust and courage had taken root. They would face the next challenge not as separate species, but as allies bound by a fearless act that had started it all. The human vessel floated just above the crater's edge, engines quietly humming as the crew worked to prepare for the next move. Outside, the distant shadows of enemy ships lingered near the horizon, waiting, circling like predators. Inside, tension filled the air. Every member of the crew knew that leaving the moon safely would require more than caution, it would demand courage and ingenuity. Ryan stood near the console, scanning the enemy movements. The sensors showed that the attackers were organized and persistent. Traditional evasive maneuvers would only delay the inevitable. He turned to Lyra, who was sitting upright on her medical bed, her eyes alert and focused. The recent events had strengthened the bond between them. She trusted him, and he trusted her instincts. "We cannot outrun them using standard routes," Ryan said. "Their ships are faster, more powerful. But there is a way to use the terrain to our advantage." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Explain," she said softly. Her people were highly skilled strategists, yet she listened carefully, recognizing the human approach was different. Humans acted on observation and intuition, not only on tradition. Ryan pointed at the holographic map of the moon. "There are narrow craters and high ridges ahead. Their ships are larger and cannot navigate tight spaces easily. If we use those areas, we can slow them down and escape." Her guards whispered among themselves. Ryan noticed their hesitation. They were trained to follow rules and feared improvisation. Yet Lyra remained calm, her focus on his words. "We must act quickly." "Do you trust me?" he asked. She nodded. "I do," she replied. "We will follow your plan." The human crew began preparations under Ryan's guidance. Shields were recalibrated to respond faster to sudden obstacles. Engines were tested for bursts of speed. Every crew member had a task, and Ryan directed them with clear, precise commands. His confidence inspired the others. They moved with determination, their fear replaced by purpose. Lyra watched silently, noticing how he considered both human and alien technology. The combination was unusual but effective. Ryan had quickly learned some of her people's advanced systems and used them in ways her guards had not imagined. His approach was simple, direct, and unafraid of failure. As the preparations continued, Ryan leaned close to Lyra. "You need to stay calm and focused," he said softly. Your presence helps them, and your instincts will guide us through. Her eyes met his. I will trust you, she said. Her voice carried quiet strength. She had seen courage before, but his fearless nature impressed her. She realized that humans could act decisively where her own people might hesitate. Finally, the moment came. The crew secured loose equipment, and the vessel's engines roared to life. The ship lifted slightly, hovering over the crater's edge. Outside, the enemy ships moved closer, unaware that their prey had a plan. Ryan took the helm, hands steady on the controls. Stay close and follow instructions, he said. We move on my signal. The human vessel darted forward, weaving between craters with remarkable agility. Lyra held her breath, amazed at the precise maneuvers. Her guards muttered in surprise, recognizing the clever use of terrain. The enemy ships tried to follow but struggled in the narrow passages. Their size and formation became a disadvantage. Ryan adjusted the engines, sending bursts of speed at unexpected moments. The ship rose over ridges and dipped into valleys, using the moon's irregular surface to hide from sensors. Each movement required careful timing, and every decision tested his instincts. Lyra observed closely, noticing the way Ryan combined calculation with intuition. His movements were not random, they were guided by observation and understanding of both human and alien technology. For her, it was a lesson in courage and creativity. The crew worked seamlessly, trusting Ryan's guidance. Even her guards began to follow his lead, though reluctantly. They could see the effectiveness of his plan and recognized that fear had no place here. Only action and trust mattered. As they neared the last ridge, the enemy ships regrouped and began a coordinated attack. Missiles and energy pulses streaked across the sky. Ryan stayed calm, guiding the vessel through sudden shifts and turns. His instincts, combined with the crew's skill, allowed them to avoid damage while maintaining speed. Lyra's hand hovered near his as he steered. Without words, they communicated through subtle gestures and glances. She realized that courage could be contagious. His fearless act on the moon's surface had not only saved her life but had inspired the crew to act with confidence. Finally, they reached a narrow canyon that twisted sharply through the moon's landscape. The human vessel slipped through with precision. The enemy ships, too large and rigid, struggled to follow. One by one, they broke formation and fell behind. The crew cheered quietly, their relief visible despite the ongoing threat. Ryan kept the vessel steady, not letting his focus waver. The chase was not over, but for the first time, they had the advantage. Lyra exhaled softly, her eyes reflecting awe and gratitude. You are fearless, she said. I have never seen anyone move with such certainty in danger. Ryan smiled faintly. Fear does not help. We act, we adapt, and we survive. That is all we can do. Her guards exchanged glances, recognizing that this human had qualities they had never encountered. He combined courage, quick thinking, and a willingness to act without hesitation. They had learned from him in hours what might have taken years of training. The vessel emerged from the canyon and soared toward open space. The enemy ships were still visible in the distance, but they were no longer a direct threat. The immediate danger had passed, and the crew allowed themselves a brief moment to breathe. Lyra turned to Ryan. You saved us all, she said softly. Not just my life, but theirs too. Ryan shook his head. We saved each other. Courage works best when shared. The human captain approached, admiration and concern in equal measure. Ryan, your plan worked perfectly. I am surprised, and the crew respects you for it. Ryan nodded, glancing at Lyra. It is not about respect. It is about doing what is right when it matters most. The alien princess looked at him, a newfound trust in her eyes. She realized that humans could offer more than strength, they could offer boldness, creativity, and loyalty in ways her empire rarely appreciated. She had witnessed a fearless act, and now she knew that trust could grow from such courage. As the human vessel moved further from the moon, the stars reflected across its surface, serene and calm. The shadows of pursuit still lingered in the distance, but inside the ship, unity and trust had taken root. Ryan had guided them through danger, and Lyra had begun to understand that courage and loyalty could transcend worlds. The escape plan had succeeded, but the journey was far from over. New challenges awaited, and the bond formed in the heat of danger would be tested again. For now, however, they had survived together, and the fearless act that began it all had created a connection neither human nor alien could forget. The human vessel glided through the shadowed expanse of space, stars reflecting off its smooth surface like scattered diamonds. Inside, the crew worked in quiet tension. Ryan's hands remained firm on the helm, eyes scanning the sensors for any sign of the pursuing ships. Lyra sat nearby, still recovering but alert, her gaze following every movement with careful attention. The calm did not last. A sudden alert flashed across the console, signaling the approach of multiple enemy ships. Ryan's stomach tightened, but his voice remained steady. "They've found us again," he said. "Prepare for immediate evasive action." The crew sprang into motion. Shields were raised, engines powered to maximum output, and every available station was manned. Lyra's guards moved quickly to assist, though their skepticism of humans had softened after the escape from the moon. They now trusted Ryan's guidance. The enemy ships emerged from the darkness, sleek and menacing, firing warning pulses that lit the void of space. The first wave of energy bolts streaked past the vessel, leaving trails of light in their wake. The human crew ducked, steadying themselves as the ship shuddered under the near misses. Ryan's mind raced. He calculated angles and speeds, predicting the enemy's movements before they even made them. "Left 20 degrees, then dive down," he instructed. The ship responded smoothly, twisting through the void with the precision of someone who trusted instinct over protocol. Lyra watched, her luminous eyes widening. Her people relied on calculated strategies, yet Ryan's improvisation combined with skillful calculation was extraordinary. His fearless nature allowed him to take risks that she would never have dared, and those risks were saving them. One of the enemy ships broke formation, targeting the vessel directly. Its energy blasts grew closer with every second. Ryan's hands moved with practiced precision, pulling the ship sharply to the side and sending a burst of speed through the engines. The blast missed, striking a nearby asteroid instead and scattering fragments across space. The crew exhaled collectively, their tension easing slightly, though they knew the battle was far from over. Lyra's hand brushed lightly against Ryan's arm, a silent gesture of trust and admiration. She had witnessed his courage firsthand, and each maneuver reinforced her belief in the human spirit. The enemy ships adjusted, moving more aggressively now. Their formation became tighter, but Ryan's instincts remained sharper. "We will use their predictability against them," he said. "They expect us to panic, but we will not." He guided the vessel through a field of floating debris, remnants of the moon's surface scattered across space. The enemy followed cautiously, their larger ships struggling to maneuver through the tight passages. Ryan's strategy worked perfectly, forcing the attackers to slow down and lose coordination. Lyra's guards whispered among themselves, astonished at the humans' quick thinking. One muttered to another, translated by the device, "He adapts faster than any of us could." Ryan glanced at Lyra. "Hold on," he said, his voice calm but firm. "This next part will be tricky, but it will work if we all stay focused." He maneuvered the vessel into a sudden drop behind a cluster of asteroids. The enemy ships followed but could not anticipate the sudden change in trajectory. Energy blasts ricocheted harmlessly off the rocks, creating a dazzling display of light. The crew cheered quietly, amazed at the precision of the movement. "Your instincts are incredible," Lyra said softly. "I have never seen anyone navigate like this." Ryan smiled faintly. Instinct is practice and attention. Fear does not help. You act with purpose, and the path becomes clear. One of the enemy ships suddenly broke away from the group and attempted a direct attack on the human vessel. Ryan anticipated the move, sending a calculated burst of speed that propelled the ship through a narrow opening in the asteroid field. The pursuing ship collided with the rock and spun away, disabled but not destroyed. The human crew erupted in quiet celebration, while Lyra's guards exchanged impressed glances. The alien princess's gaze remained on Ryan, a mixture of respect and admiration evident in her expression. She realized that his courage was not reckless, it was precise, fearless, and unwavering. Even as the immediate threat passed, Ryan knew the danger was far from over. More enemy ships could appear at any moment, and the chase could continue indefinitely. "Stay sharp," he warned. "They will adapt, but so will we." The crew continued to navigate the treacherous field of debris, each member working seamlessly under Ryan's direction. Lyra leaned slightly forward, her hand resting near the controls, observing carefully. She had begun to understand the rhythm of human courage, how it combined logic with instinct in a way that created extraordinary results. Suddenly, the vessel's sensors picked up movement in the distance, an approaching group of enemy ships, larger and faster than before. Ryan's brow furrowed. "They've called reinforcements," he said. "This will test us further." He tightened his grip on the helm, eyes scanning every angle. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers and coordinated defense," he instructed. "We will survive this together." Lyra's hand found his briefly. "I trust you," she said, her voice steady despite the danger. The connection between them had deepened, built on the fearless acts and mutual reliance that had begun on the moon. The first wave of the new attackers arrived, and the vessel responded with precise maneuvers. Ryan guided them through sudden dives and turns, using the asteroid field as cover. Energy blasts illuminated the darkness, but none struck the ship. The crew's confidence grew with each successful maneuver. Ryan noticed Lyra observing closely, her expression focused. "Your presence helps," he said quietly. "You see things others might miss, and your instincts guide me." She nodded, understanding that courage could be shared. The bond between them had become a source of strength, not just for themselves, but for everyone on the ship. Hours passed as they maneuvered through space, evading attacks with careful strategy and fearless execution. Each challenge tested their skills, but they adapted together. Ryan's leadership, combined with Lyra's observation and the crew's cooperation, allowed them to survive against overwhelming odds. Finally, the enemy ships began to retreat, recognizing that their prey was no longer easy to catch. The immediate danger had passed, and the human vessel moved steadily toward open space. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, calm and serene after the chaos. Ryan relaxed slightly, allowing himself a small smile. "We made it," he said softly. "For now." Lyra's eyes met his, filled with admiration. "You are fearless," she said. "I have seen what courage can do. You are unlike anyone I have ever known." Ryan shook his head. "It is not about being fearless. It is about choosing action over hesitation. When someone needs help, you act. That is all." The human crew cheered quietly, their relief evident. Even Lyra's guards, initially skeptical of humans, could not deny the extraordinary acts they had witnessed. The fearless act that began on the moon had now carried them through the fire of space. As the vessel glided toward safety, the bond between Ryan and Lyra remained strong. They had survived together, relied on each other, and learned that courage could bridge worlds. The journey was far from over, but they had proven that fearless acts, guided by trust and action, could overcome even the greatest challenges. The human vessel drifted in the quiet of space, the stars reflecting softly across the polished surfaces. Inside, the crew worked with calm efficiency, still alert from the earlier chase but relieved to have survived. Ryan remained at the helm, eyes scanning for any further threats, though the immediate danger had passed. Lyra sat nearby, wrapped in a soft blanket, her luminous eyes thoughtful. She had remained silent for most of the journey, watching the crew and the human who had saved her life. The events of the past days had shown her something she had rarely seen in her world: courage without expectation, action without hesitation, and trust without condition. Ryan glanced at her. "How are you feeling?" he asked. She met his gaze, her expression calm but serious. "Stronger," she admitted. "But I must speak with you." Ryan nodded. He had sensed this moment approaching. "I am listening," he said. Her voice was steady, though filled with quiet authority. "You have seen me only as I am now, a survivor of an attack. But there is more you should know. I am Lyra, heir to the throne of my star kingdom." Ryan blinked, absorbing the weight of her words. He had suspected her status, but hearing it confirmed gave the situation a new dimension. "I understand," he said. "Your people are powerful, and your enemies persistent. But that does not change what has happened. We have survived together." Lyra's gaze softened. "Yes. And that is why I must make a choice. I can return to my people and claim my throne, facing the challenges and threats that await. Or I can remain here, with you and your people, safe but far from my duty." Ryan considered her words carefully. He wanted to advise her, but he knew her decision could not be dictated by anyone. "The choice must be yours," he said. "You have courage, wisdom, and strength. Listen to your heart, and the path will become clear." Her hands rested lightly on the console, her fingers tracing patterns absent-mindedly. "I have been trained to trust only those of my own kind," she admitted. "But your actions, they have shown me a different way. Humans act with fearlessness and determination. You risked your life for me without hesitation, without expectation. That is rare in my experience." Ryan smiled faintly. "It is simple. When someone needs help, you act. That is all. Courage is not measured by titles or power. It is measured by the choice to do what is right." Lyra nodded slowly, considering his words. "If I return to my kingdom, I will face many who doubt me, who seek to remove me from power. Yet I see now that courage is contagious. If I act with conviction, perhaps my people will follow." Ryan's gaze remained steady. "And if they do, you will not be alone. You have allies who understand trust and loyalty, who will stand with you." The crew observed quietly, sensing the gravity of the moment. Lyra's guards exchanged glances, uncertain of the human's influence but recognizing its impact. Even they had begun to trust him, albeit reluctantly. Lyra's eyes softened as she looked at Ryan. "Your people have shown me that courage is not limited to those born into power. You act with your heart, not your rank. That is something my empire has forgotten." Ryan shrugged modestly. "We are far from perfect, but we try. And we act when it matters." She took a deep breath, her mind weighing the options. "I can return to my throne, using the lessons I have learned here. Or I can remain in safety, far from my people, avoiding conflict but abandoning responsibility." Ryan placed a hand gently on hers. "The path of responsibility is never easy. But it is the one that changes worlds. You have seen courage in action, and now you can carry it forward. Trust yourself, as you have trusted me." Lyra's hand lingered on his briefly, a gesture of gratitude and connection. She realized that her choice was not only about survival but about leading her people with the courage she had witnessed. The human who had pressed his hand against her wound had shown her the true meaning of bravery. After a long moment, she nodded. "I will return," she said firmly. "I will face my people, claim my place, and guide them with the courage I have seen. But I want you by my side, not as a ruler, but as a partner in strategy and trust." Ryan's eyes widened slightly, though he quickly smiled. "I will stand with you," he said. "Not because of duty, but because it is the right thing to do. Together, we can achieve more than either of us could alone." The alien guards, initially wary of humans, now seemed to accept the decision. Their respect for Ryan had grown, recognizing that his fearless acts had not only saved the princess but also demonstrated a way of thinking their empire had rarely seen. The crew prepared the vessel for the next leg of their journey. Lyra moved with confidence now, offering guidance and observing the human systems. Her energy had returned, and her focus was clear. She had made her choice, and it was rooted in trust, courage, and the lessons she had learned from a human who acted without fear. As the ship moved through the quiet of space, Lyra turned to Ryan. "Your fearless act on the moon saved my life," she said softly. "It has given me hope, and it has shown me that courage can cross worlds. I will carry that with me always." Ryan smiled, feeling the weight of her words. "And I will carry the memory of your trust," he said. "Courage is strongest when it is shared." The stars stretched endlessly ahead, calm and serene. The shadows of pursuit had faded for now, but the challenges ahead would require the same determination and trust that had carried them this far. Lyra's decision to return to her kingdom would test her courage, and Ryan's fearless guidance would be needed at every step. For the first time, the alien princess understood the power of human courage, not in battle or technology, but in simple, fearless acts of trust and action. And for Ryan, the journey had revealed the extraordinary strength of an alien princess who could lead her people with wisdom and bravery. As the vessel glided silently through space, a new bond had formed between human and alien, forged through trust, shared courage, and a choice that would shape the fate of two worlds. The journey was far from over, but Lyra's choice had set the path for a future filled with hope, collaboration, and fearless determination. The human vessel moved steadily, carrying them toward the unknown, yet united in purpose. Both Ryan and Lyra knew that the next challenges would come, but they also knew that trust, courage, and fearless action would guide them through whatever lay ahead. The stars stretched endlessly around the human vessel as it sailed through the void of space. Inside, the atmosphere was quiet but alert. The crew had recovered from the previous encounters, but every sensor was monitored, every console checked. Ryan remained at the helm, steady and focused. Beside him, Lyra sat upright, her luminous eyes scanning the displays, calm and composed. She had made her choice. She would return to her kingdom, claim her throne, and face the challenges awaiting her. But now, she understood the true meaning of courage, trust, and fearless action, lessons she had learned from Ryan. The vessel approached the outer reaches of her star system, where the planets glimmered faintly in the distance. Enemy scouts were still reported near the borders, but their numbers were diminished. The human crew worked efficiently, their trust in Ryan's instincts unshakable. "Prepare for approach," Ryan said calmly. "We may face resistance, but we are ready." Lyra's hand rested lightly on the console. "We will face it together," she said. "Not as human or alien, but as allies who trust each other." The first scout ship appeared on the sensors, moving cautiously. Its design was familiar, the same as the attackers from the moon, but smaller and slower. Ryan's fingers flew across the controls, guiding the vessel through careful maneuvers. The scout fired warning blasts, but Ryan anticipated the trajectory. The vessel twisted smoothly, dodging each attack with precision. Lyra's guards watched silently, impressed by the human's fearless skill. Even they, trained to protect the princess at all costs, had never seen such confidence in action. "Your instincts are remarkable," Lyra said softly. "I understand now why you acted without hesitation. It is not recklessness, it is certainty." Ryan glanced at her. "Courage is not about being unafraid. It is about acting when action is needed, trusting your judgment and those who stand with you." The scout ship retreated, signaling that more powerful forces were nearby. Ryan did not relax. Stay ready, he instructed. We will face the main fleet soon. Minutes later, the main fleet appeared on the sensors, large and imposing. Warships lined the horizon, ready to challenge anyone who approached the star system. Yet the human vessel moved forward without fear. Ryan's confidence had inspired the crew, and Lyra's presence added a quiet strength that steadied everyone. Your people will see you now, Ryan said gently. Stand firm, and they will understand your courage. Lyra took a deep breath, her gaze steady. I will lead, as I must. And I will trust you to guide us safely through this. The fleet advanced, energy beams glowing brightly in the void. The human vessel weaved through the assault with skillful precision, avoiding damage while maintaining a direct course toward the capital planet. Each maneuver demonstrated not only Ryan's instincts but also Lyra's growing command of the situation. Her guards whispered among themselves, impressed at the seamless coordination. Even the most skeptical crew members were now inspired by the alliance between human and princess. As the vessel reached the atmosphere of the capital planet, the enemy fleet hesitated. The human ship moved boldly, showing no fear, and Lyra's presence radiated authority. Her luminous eyes scanned the horizon, conveying calm, strength, and purpose. The largest enemy warship advanced, ready to block their path. Ryan adjusted the course, leading the vessel in a daring maneuver through narrow canyons in the planet's atmosphere. The massive warship could not follow. Energy blasts missed, striking the rocky terrain instead. Lyra watched in awe. Your courage inspires more than just your crew, she said. It shows strength to those who oppose us. Ryan smiled faintly. We act with purpose. Fear cannot guide us. Only determination and trust will. The vessel emerged from the canyons into the open skies above the capital city. Citizens below looked up in astonishment as the human ship landed gracefully at the palace grounds. Lyra stood, regal and calm, her luminous eyes reflecting both gratitude and resolve. The palace guards approached cautiously, unsure whether to challenge the newcomers. Lyra raised a hand. I return not as a fugitive, but as your rightful leader, she declared. We have faced danger together, and we have survived. Courage is not limited to those born into power, it is shown through action. Ryan stood beside her, his presence quiet but commanding. The human crew watched, knowing that the fearless act that began on the moon had led them here, to this pivotal moment. The palace guards hesitated, then lowered their weapons. The citizens cheered as Lyra's words spread through the city. Her trust in a human had changed not only her perspective but also the hearts of her people. Courage had become contagious. Lyra turned to Ryan. Your actions have shown me what it means to lead with courage, she said. I will carry this lesson forward. Thank you for showing me the strength of fearless acts. Ryan shook his head. You had the courage all along. I only helped you see it. Her guards, once skeptical, now bowed in respect. The human crew smiled quietly, proud of the role they had played. Together, human and alien had overcome danger and shown that trust, courage, and fearless action could bridge worlds. As night fell over the capital city, Lyra stood on the palace balcony, looking at the stars. The human vessel rested nearby, a symbol of the alliance that had been forged through bravery and trust. She knew that challenges would continue, but she also knew that courage, when shared, could overcome any obstacle. Ryan stood beside her, quiet but present. The bond between them had grown from a simple act of fearlessness on the moon to a powerful alliance that would influence two worlds. The stars above reflected the promise of the future bright, infinite, and full of possibility. Lyra's kingdom would prosper, guided by courage and trust. The human crew had proven that fearless action could change fate, and that lesson would endure far beyond this day. For Lyra, the decision to return and face her people had been difficult, but it had been the right choice. And for Ryan, the journey had revealed the extraordinary strength of a leader willing to trust, act, and inspire those around her. Together, human and alien had shown that courage was not limited to any one species. It was universal, born from action, trust, and the fearless choice to stand when it mattered most. And as the night stretched across the capital city, a new era began, one shaped by bravery, unity, and the unbreakable bond formed between a human who acted without hesitation and an alien princess who learned to trust beyond fear. The story of their journey, starting from a simple act of courage on a distant moon, would be remembered across worlds. Fearless acts had created hope, trust had bridged differences, and courage had rewritten destiny. Ryan and Lyra stood together, looking toward the stars, knowing that the future was theirs to shape beyond fear, beyond doubt, and beyond the boundaries of worlds.